Okay, if that's the way you want to start, I'll start. You don't know Kerr's coming back. You have no idea. In fact, nobody does, and I'll tell you why. It depends on how the second half of the year goes. They have a good last 29 games, maybe make a little noise in the postseason. Yeah, they could be back.
Well, I'll tell you what, to that.
I'm just listening to Joe Lacob.
Gotcha. But if we do some guru math, the second half of the season's already technically started.
Well, you know.
No, I know. 41,
but in the NBA,
but the 12 games after 41, which they got 29 left, so that's going good. You know, they're hot right now. And when I say hot, Steiny, you kind of could see something happening. We'll see if they can sustain
one of their last,
it.
They've won one of their last two. How hot's that?
Well, yeah. And they're one over. God, it just feels like it's a feel that I have in my stomach, Steiny. And it's not hunger. It's just, I feel like they've turned the corner. We'll see if they can keep it up.
Joe Lacob, we've got to talk about this quote because this is what's starting to hit me, and I kind of wonder why we haven't talked more about it. This is Joe Lacob on the Athletic Podcast.
All right. Can you say you were going to be out of the second apron going into going into next season? You will not be in the second apron?
I'll go beyond that. I'll tell you that our, plan 1 or 1A is actually we'd like to be out of the tax. And we think we have a way to do that. That kind of is the plan, not just under the second apron. And I'll tell you why that's important. Because the truth is that we need to be out of the tax 2 years out of the next 4 in order, or below the tax line, in order to get this repeater thing off our books. We don't want to be a repeater. It's just so prohibitive. Not to say we wouldn't do it if we had to, but you've got to look at what the downside is to doing that. So that's the plan, is to try to do that. And we think we can keep our team together and retain even the players we might be able to bring players back at different numbers and so on. So that's kind of plan A, but there's a plan 1B, I guess, or probably 1A. And 1B is, we could go even further than that, and we could make big changes if we had to. If this team, were to go slide all the way down here and not do well at the end of the year, there's going to be big changes. But if we do really well, we might decide to go the other way. So everything's open. We have to be flexible. I can just tell you that the goal is to not be a lottery team ever. The goal is to be competitive. The goal is to win. And ideally, if it's possible, to win championships or compete for championships.
All right, that was Joe Lacob.
Damn.
To me, there are about 4 money parts of that. But this is the one. If this team were to slide all the way down and not do well at the end of the year here, there's going to be big changes. Okay. What does that mean? Does that mean the Warriors right now are 27 and 26? Yeah. They're 10th. Does that mean they go up to 8, they lose a play-in game?
Oh, man.
Okay, well, Kerr ain't coming back.
Qualify.
Well, Kerr's not coming back then.
I don't know why that doesn't qualify, and I love Kerr.
Well, what would be the other big changes?
Like a player. Like, this is going to sound crazy, but either way, those words and the 6 things that you said stuck out to you. The one that sticks out to me as a Warrior fan is we're going to still be balling. We are still going to be in it, and if we lose, that will hurt. But Steiny, in a crazy world on the Guru computer, which I keep referring to, Kevin Durant was like, there's a big boy out there or some big boy out there that if it were to go bad,
they have no money.
They would try to go get. But they could make some money. They could create some money.
No, they couldn't. No, they can't.
With a trade, Steiny. There could be a trade.
They got to take money back. Are you chewing gum?
Yeah, I got a little big red.
Does the boss know?
Why are you snitching?
Well,
they couldn't hear on air. I had it under my tongue like chew. Shout out FP. But come on,
if this team were to slide all the way down and not do well at the end of the year, there's going to be big changes.
Yeah.
If this team doesn't make it out of the play-in, I'll say it this way. How do you bring Steve Kerr back? Let's start with Steve Kerr. How do you bring Steve Kerr back if you finish 42 and 40 and you get beat in the play-in? And then what do you do with Clay at that point? What does Clay's future depend on? The team or how he plays?
Or their relationship. It may not depend. It may already be cemented, Steiny. It's just about how much he wants to take to stay. Joe Lacob is fond of him just like he is a Draymond Green. So I believe what Clay has meant, that means something. So I don't think he's going anywhere. But Steiny, I also follow that up with, I could see him going somewhere. Him wanting to say, I want a fresh start. But the fact that Joe Lacob just basically told the masses, Steiny, we're never, ever gonna break this thing down or start over or try to go to the lottery. That's what I love too. Like that energy and zest is.
That doesn't guarantee it's going to happen.
And I was just going to say that. But the fact is,
you say you were going to be out of the second apron going into going into next season. You will not be in the second apron.
I'll go beyond that. I'll tell you that our plan one or 1A is actually we'd like to be out of the tax.
Out of the tax.
Think we have a way to do that.
We got to cut payroll.
That kind of is the plan, not just under the second apron. And I'll tell you why that's important. Because
there's more flexibility.
The truth is that we need to be out of the tax 2 years out of the next 4 in order, or below the tax line, in order to get this repeater thing off our books. We don't want to be a repeater. It's just so prohibitive. Not to say we wouldn't do it if we had to, but you've got to look at what the downside is to doing that. So that's the plan, is to try to do that. And we think we can keep our team together and retain even the players we might be able to bring players back at different numbers and so on. So that's kind of plan A, but there's a plan 1B, I guess, or probably 1A. And 1B is, we could go even further than that, and we could make big changes if we had to. If this team, were to go slide all the way down here and not do well at the end of the year, there's going to be big changes. But if,
so there it is.
Chris Paul probably is Calipari.
The bottom line is the next month and a half is going to determine whether this team keeps it together or not. That's what I'm hearing with Joe Lacob.
I wouldn't fight you on that.
Because, that's exactly what he said. He said, it's fluid. If we do well, there's a way we can get under the apron, keep everybody or keep some guys and bring them back at another number. Okay, but if it goes south, big changes.
Which can be good, though. Big changes could be, like I said, Steiny, I don't have that intel on who would be moved, traded, or whatnot, but it would be explored. But you don't want to deal with that immediate pain of big changes are coming because you kind of went south.
Well, that's why they would get big changes. Yeah. That's why they would make big changes. If this is fool's gold.
Which I don't believe it is.
Well, I don't know if it is or it isn't, to tell you the truth.
We're about to find out.
If you look at it realistically, they're still one injury away from big changes. One injury and a stumble to the finish. Yeah. 888-957-9570. The more I've listened, and I'll tell you what, I know how Goo is when he goes, Steiny, I rewatched the game. Okay, we'll take his word for it.
Yeah, Super Bowl 4 times.
Okay. You know how many times I've listened to the Lacob quotes now? Probably 8.
Wow.
And I am totally convinced that the next 6-8 weeks, they're going to determine what this team does.
Kerr's future is on your list.
If they don't, I'll just say it this way, just to pick an arbitrary thing. If they don't win a playoff series, I don't think Steve Kerr's back. If they don't win a playoff series, I don't think Klay Thompson's back.
Damn.
If they don't win a playoff series, then I think Draymond Green's fair game and Wiggins is fair game and Looney's fair game. That's what I'm hearing from Joe Lacob. I feel like he's been thinking, not necessarily we've kicked the can down the road, but we were, we got to the second round last year. We're struggling a little bit this year. I'm willing to give these guys the benefit of the doubt, so I'm going to give them to the end of the year. But I don't think you can think for 1 minute that if the Warriors don't win a playoff series, that they're not going to make huge changes. Tell me if you disagree with me at 888-957-9570. And that's kind of the way I look at it, Goo. And let me just throw this at you. To me, if the Warriors go further than last year, even if they get to the second round and are more competitive, that could be more status quo. If the Golden State Warriors win a round and then lose in the second round, I'm not really sure. Mm-hmm. If the Warriors lose in the first round of the playoffs to Oklahoma City or Denver or somebody like that, how can you bring Kerr back and re-sign Klay Thompson and say, let's do it again? That to me is the opposite of what Joe Lacob is all about. He talked all through that interview about how we have an aggressive culture. That works both ways. Mm-hmm. So I don't know how Warrior fans are thinking, but the more I think about it, the more I think the second half of the season, it's going to dictate the futures of a half dozen players. A half dozen players maybe, and a coach.
Yeah, you know what? I'm not mad at anything you said, but again, I just can't. In that interview with Cal Kami, Steiny, Joe Lacob just blew me away, and he blew me away in the sense that relationships that he's created, the winning, this culture, it means something to him. And he stated what Draymond Green meant to him and why he was re-signed. And, you know, just right now, he talked about it. Most likely he's going to retire a Warrior. Steiny, I'm just having trouble, and I'm not disagreeing
I would not say
you.
that.
Well, he said it.
Who?
Joe Lacob said he sees Draymond Green retiring a Warrior.
Well,
and he's a brother.
Okay.
I got you. So just me taking him for his word, I don't know how to, and I'm not saying anybody that says, Guru, this is not on the table, that Clay and Kerr are not right there with Draymond. I'm now more leaning towards, regardless what happens, Steiny, those guys won't be ran. Now, Clay it might be a mutual thing with Clay.
Guru,
but I don't think
why don't you sit over there and just say, I believe Joe Lacob is lying. He said, if we're to slide all the way down and not do well at the end of the year, you know there's going to be big changes. So you don't believe him.
No, Klay Thompson, now I got to be careful here. I believe it could be a mutual parting to where okay, right.
That's fine. So it's still a big
change. He wouldn't get blamed for them. I don't believe Klay Thompson would be blamed, and the fallout would be, oh, we didn't win a round. Klay, you got to go. It's one of those things to where what Steve Kerr and Klay Thompson have meant to this Warrior team may supersede the immediate impact or disappointment of them being ran or losing in the play-in. I could be wrong, but I think that Draymond Green's 4-for-100 to me is so symbolic that Lacob is a killer, but Steiny, there is an emotional attachment, and I'm just wondering, even if they were to flame out or lose in the first round in the playoff series, I believe I could see Kerr coming back.
Well, that's not what Joe Lacob just said. Not specifically about Kerr.
I'm just telling you that's how me reading it and hearing that whole interview.
Here's the other thing that I hear.
Where I'm at.
If we don't do well in the postseason, we don't make noise, there's going to be big changes. Draymond Green could be a big change. They'll move off Draymond. If they don't win a playoff series, why would you? Well, Draymond's going to be here for life. Why would you say that if you can't win a first-round series right now and he's 35 years old or whatever he is? Like, to me, and I'm being dead serious, because I think Joe Lacob's honest most of the time.
Yeah.
What I heard was, let's see how this year ends up, and it will dictate how we move forward. We do pretty well. I think Steve will come back. We'll try to get Clay back at a nice number. And then maybe we'll try to tinker some more around the edges, because at that point, at least we won a playoff series, and we know that there might only be 8 teams better than us, and how can we leapfrog those guys in the offseason? If the Warriors finish 42-40 and lose in a play-in or get beat in the first round, to me, Joe Lacob is saying all bets are off at that point. And I do not think we can underestimate the businessman part of Joe Lacob. I mean, I am not extending or re-signing Klay Thompson if he's not going to help us get better next year, either by taking half as much money or by being a better player than he was this year. Like, you're not paying Klay, right? If this is who Klay is, it's 35-point game. If this is who Klay is, and he's like, I want $26 million a year, I mean, you got to say bye-bye at that point.
Well, what if he says, you know what, I've accepted this, if this is what's to come, this role coming off the bench, I want to be a Warrior Joe at that same dinner Draymond went to. I do wonder, Steiny. And I understand everything on the table, and you're right, it could be some heavy moves, but I just feel like before it got to that point, and again, this is all dependent on how this season ends, are you like, you know what, we maximize this year, we won a round, let's see what we got. But I don't know where Klay's mindset is at, but if you just go off of what he's been kind of saying and the nuggets he's been dropping, he kind of understands, you know what, if I could master coming off the bench, maybe we could work something out.
With all due respect to Klay, what's he saying today? I know what he said 3 days ago,
I got you.
Which was different than 7 days ago, which was different than 4 weeks ago.